Canada, a people's history, proudly presented with the corporate partnership support of Sun Life Financial, Ascenda, and the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
In 1858, a young boy leaves his home in the prairies bound for Montreal. His adoring mother hopes he will return a priest. 13-year-old Louis Riel is known as one of the brightest boys in Red River. He has been sent to the Collège de Montréal. His schoolmates are fascinated by his exotic background.
A young man who knew about pemmican and the tomahawk and had seen the long hair of the Sioux.
While Louis is still at school, his father dies suddenly, leaving his large family to fend for itself. Overcome with despair, Louis writes home to his sisters.
The news plunged me into the depths of sorrow. I was advised not to write immediately so as not to sadden you too much. But I cannot contain myself any longer. Let us cry, now and forever.
But Louis Riel soon recovers and makes a decision that will change the destiny of a people and a country. A new dominion is scarcely born when old hatreds test its fragile bonds. A ringing call for tolerance is silenced by a cold-blooded assassin. This is a story of a people who refuse to submit to the laws of another. And a prairie province born of an armed uprising. A story of great personal triumph and bitter defeat. The completion of a dream to build a railway and a country from sea to sea. (1866). Louis Riel has decided to abandon his studies at the Collège de Montréal. Instead, he apprentices at a law office in the city and falls in love.
Monsieur Louis Riel, adult male, and Mademoiselle Marie-Julie Guernon, adult female, promise and resolve to take each other as husband and wife.
But the parents of Marie Guernon break off the engagement when they learn Riel is Métis, part Indian and part French. Angry and disappointed, Louis Riel leaves Montreal. He is heading back to Red River and a fateful confrontation. In the birthplace of Louis Riel, a dispute has erupted over the land. The Hudson's Bay Company lease on the whole region of Rupert's Land is about to expire. The British would like Canada to take over the territory. But no one tells the 8,000 French and English Métis, or the Indian population, what will happen to them. In anticipation of the transfer, settlers have been streaming in from the east, eager to claim a plot on the prairie. Charles Mair, a journalist and Canadian nationalist, dreams of a new Ontario on the prairies. English, Protestant, and white. He encourages others to follow him.
Farming here is a pleasure. There is no toil in it. All who do farm are comfortable and become wealthy. The half-breeds are the only people here who are starving. 5,000 of them have had to be fed this winter, and it's their own fault.
But the Métis are about to stop the settlers in their tracks.
It was early Sunday morning before sunrise when I saw my birthplace again. It was such a beautiful day.
In 1868, Louis Riel arrives back in Red River. The last time his family saw him, he was barely in his teens. Now he is a grown man of 24, bilingual, educated, worldly. He is expected to lead the family since his father is dead. But provocative acts by the government of Canada soon throw Louis Riel into a much bigger role. For some time now, surveyors have been marking lots for future settlement by Easterners, though Canada has no authority here yet. The head of surveys makes his report.
Further progress with the survey had been stopped by a band of some 18 French half-breeds, headed by a man named Louis Riel. Mr. Webb was ordered by the leader of the party at once to desist from further running the line.
They have come here to chase us from our homeland. They assume that after 50 years of civilization, our society has borne no fruit. Instead of respecting the laws established in the colony, they have publicly repudiated them.
Riel gains instant stature. Now he must get Ottawa's attention before the land is transferred to Canada. Supporters gather around him, ready to follow his lead, ready to take a risky and decisive step. On November 2nd, 1869, Riel sets off with armed supporters. They have decided to seize the Hudson's Bay headquarters at Fort Garry, the key to controlling the Red River region. Governor William McTavish has no troops to challenge Riel. Instead, he watches helplessly from his study.
As I close this letter, a party of 100 of the malcontents have arrived and taken possession of Fort Garry. Guards are posted at each gate and parade the platforms. They give assurance that nothing will be touched and nothing taken. From what provision they require, they offer to pay in the name of the Council of the Republic of Half-Breeds.
In the early days, Riel and his advisors extend a hand to all residents.
We want to form a provisional government for our protection. We invite you to join with us sincerely. That government will be composed equally of French and English.
At the many community meetings, it seems for a time as if even some English residents are listening. But James Ross, an English Métis, fears everything is moving too quickly.
Your acts are now acts of rebellion. We shall draw down on the colony misfortunes such as it has never known.
If we are rebels, we are rebelling against the company which is selling us and against Canada which wants to buy us. We are not rebelling against the British government. We are loyal to our homeland.
From their secure position inside the fort, the Métis guards dig in and wait to see how Ottawa will react. In Ottawa, John A. Macdonald has heard about the trouble on the frontier.
These impulsive half-breeds have got spoilt and must be kept down by a strong hand until they are swamped by the influx of settlers.
He has already appointed a lieutenant governor for the region. William McDougall sets off for Red River in regal fashion. His luggage requires 14 wagons. He has brought his own piano and a custom toilet seat. McDougall and his entourage must travel through the U.S. to get to Red River. But when they arrive at the border, Métis guards are waiting for them. The Catholic nuns observe the mounting tension.
War is upon us. The Métis have barricaded all the roads and would sooner spill blood than let these men enter the country. How admirable to see the spirit which animates our noble Métis.
William McDougall does not yet have the authority to claim the land for Canada. But that doesn't stop him. He crosses the border and reads his proclamation aloud, though no one is there to listen.
Her Majesty the Queen has been graciously pleased to appoint me for the admission of Rupert's Land into the Union or Dominion of Canada to be Lieutenant Governor during Her Majesty's pleasure.
He issues an order to Surveyor John Stoughton Dennis, raise an army and drive Riel and his Métis out of Fort Garry.
Assault, fire upon, or break into any fort or other place in which the said armed men may be found.
A growing number of Ontario settlers are ready to join an attack on the Métis. John Christian Schultz has been stirring up the English population, especially a young hothead named Thomas Scott. There is a rumor of a price on Riel's head. But Riel takes matters into his own hands. In early December, he seizes Schultz and 56 of his followers and throws them in Fort Garry, ending any serious resistance for now. With the prisoners safely locked away, Riel proclaims the end of Hudson's Bay Company control over all of Rupert's Land.
We have only acted in conformity with that sacred right which commands every citizen to oppose the enslavement of his native land with all his strength.
Louis Riel is soon named President and Commander-in-Chief. But it is not just a military occupation. For several months, he leads a provisional government with French and English members. It includes A.G.B. Bannatyne, a popular English resident who serves as postmaster, and the reluctant James Ross, who becomes Attorney General. Riel is now in a strong position to deal with Ottawa on his own terms. But the path to negotiation is brutally interrupted by a fateful decision. Inside Fort Garry, the prisoners are taunting their Métis guards. The most violent among them is Thomas Scott, an Ontario Orangeman. He brags that he will personally kill Riel if he ever gets out. In early March, Scott is overheard insulting Riel.
The Métis are a pack of cowards. They will never dare shoot me. I want nothing. You are a pack of cowards.
Riel appoints a tribunal to try Scott for inciting violence against the Métis. On it are some of Riel's most trusted confidants: Ambroise Lépine, Elzéar Goulet. The military tribunal convicts Scott. He is sentenced to death. Some English residents beg Riel to reconsider, but he is adamant, saying they must make the government of Canada respect them. On March 4th, 1870, Scott is blindfolded and dragged outside.
The Globe, April 1st, 1870. It is with special regret we have to report that Mr. Scott has actually been put to death. It is said he was murdered, not because he had broken his parole, but because he was an Orangeman and obnoxious to the priests. It is very likely that he was so treated because he was a poor man, and not likely, in Riel's estimation, to have any powerful friends to make much ado about his death.
Word of the execution stirs passions in Ontario. There are calls for Riel to be hanged. The Ontario government even puts a bounty out for his capture. Riel does not apologize for the actions taken.
Consider the circumstances. Let the motives be weighed. If there was a single act of severity, one must not lose sight of the long course of moderate conduct during the troubles of 1869. We sought to disarm, rather than fight, the lawless strangers who were making war against us.
But as the tension escalates, secret diplomacy is also underway. A team of 3 negotiators arrives in Ottawa from Red River, led by a soft-spoken country priest. Father Noel Richot is deeply loyal to Riel. He goes armed with a list of demands for a new province they wish to call Manitoba. To avoid igniting a firestorm in Ontario, MacDonald and Cartier meet the delegates at a discreet distance from Parliament Hill. John A. MacDonald is confident he can stare down the inexperienced prairie delegates.
If we once get them here, we will easily deal with them.
But they are stunned by the steely determination of Richot. The priest demands everything be put on the table, and soon they are discussing full provincial status, responsible government for the citizens, provisions for separate schools for Catholics. Richot argues them into granting 1.4 million acres of land to the children of the Métis.
To conclude this important business, we spent about 75 hours in discussion with Sir George and Sir John. Matters are going well for our poor but brave people of Red River.
In May 1870, their work is done, and a new province is born. With the completion of the transfer, the young Dominion of Canada has acquired a landmass of 2.3 million square miles, 30 times the size of Britain, and tucked in the corner of the vast territory, a small province called Manitoba. With protections for French and Catholics and a people now known to the world as the Métis.
No matter what happens now, the rights of the Métis are assured by the Manitoba Act. That is what I wanted. My mission is finished.
But Ottawa is not finished with Riel. He will not be granted amnesty for his actions. To appease Ontario, MacDonald sends a military force west. In May, 400 British regulars and 800 volunteers set off for Red River. They are commanded by Garnet Wolseley. His instructions are to ensure a peaceful transition to a new government. They cross Lake Superior. Portage around Kakabeka Falls. And after a long journey over land and water, finally reach Red River. Wolseley is keen to capture Riel himself, but Riel guesses his intention and slips out of the fort, leaving his breakfast unfinished. With the Métis leader gone, the soldiers are still eager for action. Wolseley keeps his British troops in order, but the volunteers from Ontario run wild, setting off on a violent rampage. One day they spot Elzéar Goulet. The killing of Goulet causes horror in Red River. And convinces Riel he cannot risk giving himself up to Canadian justice. In the coming years, he is constantly on the move. Friends receive letters from Montreal, New York, and Montana, where he marries and has 2 children. The man whose actions led to the birth of the province of Manitoba is now an exile in the United States.
I am grateful to the flag which protects me, not too unhappy in my misfortune. Louis Riel.